Right then, more little jobs. This time it's the turn of, well, to be honest, I'm not sure if it's supposed to be a ladder or an outboard mount. Hopefully I will find out at some stage. To be honest, if it's an outboard mount, I'm not even sure I'm going to want to need it. Whatever it was on the back of the boat. So I figure get it off, because we need to get it off anyway so we can paint and fix holes and things like that. And there's not a huge amount to it. It kind of fell apart into its constituent parts. We've got two old bits of wood which attach to the boat, two very, very greasy sliders which attach to that, to those bits of wood, the two metal bits that come out, the wooden block that you either step on or put your outboard on, and then a sort of turny thing that sits up against a fixing which is still on the boat. Getting this off, oh sorry, and there's two metal bolts that go through the wooden bit. Getting this off was a nightmare. I've tried to keep the original fixings as I'm taking stuff off, but to be honest, almost all of this stuff is going to get, all the fixings for it rather, is going to get chucked away, because I had to hacksaw through a couple of them. Most of the rest were stripped on the way out. Some were sort of hammered out. Anyway, it's out, that's the main thing. So I'm going to figure out what to do and what to do first and what to do it with. Right, hopefully you can see that. What have we got? I mean, none of it's in particularly bad shape. This is aluminium. There's a lot of oxidation there. On this one, I have tried to see if this rust remover will do anything, but it doesn't really do much. So I think it's probably going to be a question of sanding off the worst of it first, and then giving them a good soak. Likewise, these are just a bit tatty, a bit of a sand down maybe, and a bit of a soak as well. The wooden parts back into the usual of sanding back down, and since these aren't submerged, we'll probably end up just getting T-coiled. That I think is probably a sanding down job, maybe a soak first, and then these, well, it wasn't prepared to move. I don't know how well you can see in there, but they are completely full of grease. So working on the principle that one grease is much the same as another, we're going to give them a quick going over with some engine degreaser to see if that can persuade them to tart themselves up a little bit. I have, since one of my last videos, invested in some blue cloth, so I'm no longer destroying kitchen towels at a rate of knots. So I'm going to give that 5 minutes just to soak in, and I'm going to get my orbital sander onto these bits and see how quickly we can get rid of all of the varnish. I should imagine that's probably sealant on the back there, but you can see the stray bits of varnish on the side. I won't bother with varnish remover unless it looks like it's going to need it. Certainly quite a good workout for the arms, that. Quite a good result. Let my arms have a little bit of a rest. Let's see how we're going over here. Right, so we'll need a little bit more. Couple of issues. Looks to be rotting a little bit there, but it's still quite solid. More importantly, you can see the end grain opening up an awful lot, and if I do that, there's a big crack, as Tony Greig would say, opening up. But it doesn't run all the way through, so it may be that it'll do. I'm pretty certain it was an outboard mount actually, because you can just see these two indentations here, which go quite deep, which would imply that something heavy regularly rested on it. And then these gouges here, which are from this piece, which is fallen on the floor. You can see that's been hitching it that way or that way. So if I do bring it back into service, I would almost certainly need some sort of metal protection on top, I think. I mean, it's not particularly deep, it's just a bit unsightly. Anyway, put that to one side. Back to these, we'll see if the second batch of oil grease remover has... And well, about an hour or so later, a bit of cleaning as well as the degreaser, some wire wool inside those, bit of sanding on these and quite a lot of sanding on the wood, and that's the end product. In terms of putting it back together, you get the ever useful T-coil on this wood, and then on the runners I've got some WD-40 white grease, which I will use to lubricate, probably a bit nearer the time actually, and then some copper grease just on the threads of the nuts on these big bolts that run all the way through, and then that should be ready to put in the corner, hopefully to go back on the boat before not too long. Yeah, a lot of sanding, as always. I think if there's any more sanding in this, I'll start a channel called Only Sands, and a lot of T-coil. And it's all come up pretty well. You can still see that there's this quite large crack. Doesn't run all the way through. Try to get it so you can see. And it is held in place by two bolts which go all the way through. So I'm relatively relaxed about replacing this at this stage. I don't think it's necessary. The aluminium components have been scrubbed up, polished up, a little bit of sanding to take off some slightly rough edges that could potentially have cut somebody quite badly. And the stainless steel components have also been tidied up. They look to have got a little bit of dust in them along the way, so I'm just going to strip that out because we're going to put in some fresh grease. I have kept the fixings, although most of them were demolished whilst being removed. Pretty much all of them will be replaced, but for the time being I think I'm going to use a few just to hold it all together really, and then worry about replacing them when it's ready to go back on the boat. So yeah, just got to piece it back together now really. And there we go. Almost as good as new. I have just spotted that the two pieces of wood are actually two completely different sizes. But that's okay. I can work with that, or I can just replace one of them nearer the time. I would say that looks significantly better than it did. And of course the most important thing is that it's another little job ticked off.